Well, BJ Bland, anyone in the New Zealand, Australia region who knows anything about fighting will know your name. You now get an opportunity to get your name further afield with the PFL Challenger Series. I guess it's sort of bittersweet for you having to go through the Challenger Series when before COVID was a thing, you were in the lightweight tournament. Have you really thought much about the whole process to get to this point?
Yeah, I've tried not to dwell on it too much, bro. Like you say, I sort of a couple of years ago it was probably almost a better offer, but it's just a consequence of the times, and I just got to make the most of this opportunity that I've been given.
You'll be fighting Damir Fahabagovic, I think I got that right. Bosnian dude, likes to strike a little bit. Hasn't had anywhere near the fights that you have. I think he's 5-2. What do you know about the guy? What have you seen?
I've seen a bit of footage of his last few fights. He just seems like a good tidy striker, bro. Some good scrambly grappling on the ground. Like you say, he hasn't had a fraction of the amount of fights I've had. So I think my experience is going to be a bit too much when it really comes down to it. He's on a good little run at the moment, but I think I should be a bit too much for him to handle.
It's quite interesting looking at this Challenger Series. There's a mix of experienced people and people at the very start of the career. I know people who would have watched the women's lightweights. It was very much a few sort of debut fighters, and the girl who got the contract was probably the most experienced of the bunch. When it comes to looking at experience versus talent, what's the difference there? I mean, you're a fighter, so it's probably not the greatest question for you, but
it's hard to tell, to be honest, bro. Because there's no real general rule. I think a lot of it comes down to who each person has fought. If you look at a lot of the experienced guys in the New Zealand scene, a lot of us have scratchy records, but we literally fought anyone, anywhere, any point. If you look at this gym, there's a group of 5 of us have all fought each other. It's a big circle at all different times and at all different points. We were sort of the top of the country and we're all just knocking each other out. We're not knocking each other out, but knocking each other off the top perch. So it's a real meat grinder. But now, there's more guys fighting, you can sort of not pick your path a little bit better. So promising prospects can manage their career a bit better and be a bit more strategic. They can pick fights that they have a good chance of winning and build these good records. So I guess long story short, that's my answer.
Yeah, it is quite interesting you mentioned that, because the New Zealand scene has been basically for the past 10 years or so the top guys all fighting each other and, like you say, sort of bludgeoning each other's records, and it's probably not the most cohesive into getting yourself onto a bigger promotion when they're looking at those records, at your runs, and seeing how you've done. But now mixed martial arts, combat sports in general, it's getting a lot more push down this end of the world. Obviously that's making a big difference in terms of putting more spotlight on the guys rather than having them compete for it.
Yeah, bro, yeah. It was just it was a meat grinder back then. It was just you all just fought each other because there was no one else to fight, but we're all very similar levels, all very good fighters. So it was sort of anyone on any given day was going to come away with their hand raised. But now, you can kind of, I guess, pick off easier opponents and match things just a little bit more in your favour to build on paper anyway, a much better looking record. But back then we just didn't have the luxury of that.
In terms of down this end of the world, a lot of people seem a little bit surprised that guys who fought each other now training together. You look at Jamie Mullarkey, who fought over the weekend. He fought Volk in the past. Volk knocked him out. They've been training together. He's trained with Brad Riddell as well. Those guys fought in the UFC. For those non-fighters like myself, can you sort of just talk to separating competition from training and working together and how you guys are able to do that?
Yeah, that's just, like you say though, it's competition. Well, for the most part, sometimes fights can get personal, but yeah, for the most part, and like especially in New Zealand, everyone seems to be like, and the scene seems to be like good, decent blokes. So it's just competition. We fight. We all want to win. If we win, we're happy. If we don't, we're disappointed. But it's like nothing against the other guys. So yeah, there's groups of us here who have all fought, or like guys here who fought Eugene. Like it's just like it's too much of a small scene in New Zealand to kind of try and cut people off. You know, they're your opponent. They're not your enemy.
It's funny you mentioned guys who fought Eugene. I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago, and he mentioned that you probably started fighting around the same time he did. I mean, you're a lot younger than Eugene, obviously. Just for people who might not know you, can you tell us a little bit about your journey to getting to this point, and how long you've been fighting, all that sort of thing?
Yeah. Me and Eugene probably did fight around the same time. We fought on the same show, and like it was my second fight. Would have been like 2008. And I think maybe it might have been his second or third fight. So yeah, we both were sort of involved in the early days of MMA. I started kickboxing at a very young age, and then started competing at like 14, 15, just like amateur Thai boxing fights. And then when I went to uni in Palmerston North, the gym that I was training Thai boxing at was sort of kind of getting into MMA as well, and man, it was just too much of an exciting sport to not try, so I just jumped in the deep end. I wasn't like, I'd say probably the first 3 years, maybe even more, I was just out of my depth for it. Like I'd win some, but I didn't have the skill set that I really should have been to be competing. But yeah, it's just having a crack.
Dan Hooker referred to you as the bane of his existence. You guys have been training a lot together in the past years, and a lot in recent months with yourself and him fighting on the same weekend. How's fight camp been, and how's it been testing each other?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, we're just like it's funny. Like he's fought a lot of southpaws over his career since I've been up at City, and like I'm sort of his go-to guy for a southpaw with similar weights, similar experience, and yeah, we just go at it, bro. But like it's funny. I remember like might have been after the Jim Miller fight. Like he fought Jim Miller, come back, and then it was like his first sparring back, and he just looked at me and was just like, "Don't even come near me." Like we go at it like for 8 weeks, but it's all just like good, healthy, competitive training. I love it. He loves it, but at the end of it, I think we're over it.
When you look at the PFL Challenger Series, just what do you make of the platform, of the system they have going there, rather than just building the tournament itself, but also putting on these Challenger Series to, I guess, bring a few more eyes to some guys that might not get a contract, but guys to watch in the future? Yeah,
it's just building their talent roster earlier and just building their depth. They've definitely gone like, how would I say it, like it's definitely geared towards like this generation's audience. It's not really like, I don't know how to say it, but like, it's not like a traditionalist sort of thing, like they have celebrity judges and all the new technology and that, but yeah, that's to like appeal to the younger audience, I guess. That's a big part of the MMA demographic. And then it's just a chance for guys who don't have contracts to try and get a bit of recognition and hopefully get that contract. But even if you don't, you're still getting some eyes on you, and hopefully a good way to further your career.
In terms of your career, I think you're 16 and 10, been fighting for years and years. Where do you see yourself in your career right now, and how much more do you feel you have to give?
We're definitely getting towards the end of it. Like I got a wife and a 1-year-old back home. They live 5 hours away, so like time up here is like time training. Like I need to be up here training because this is the best place in the country to train, but it's a lot of time away from the family, time I could be spending with them, and also like holding down a regular job and building towards our future. So yeah, it's getting towards the end. Like hopefully I can seize this opportunity and push on and start making some money and have a great like ending to it. But if not, yeah, it's been an adventure.
I mean, MMA is a hard sport to make a living in, right? You've been doing this for years. How do you sort of help the next generation coming through, knowing that it's not the easiest sport to commit your life to.
Yeah, it's very hard. Like if you look at like sport, like the more recognised sports like rugby, league, soccer, and that, they have systems in place. So guys who at a young age, sort of like towards the end of high school and that show promise, they go into a system where like the union or the organisations look after them and help guide them through till they become professional. But there's none of that in New Zealand. The closest thing they have is like a gym here, but like you get your like it's great training, but like in terms of life, you just sort of have to figure that out yourself. You have to find a way to make a living, find a way to like have accommodation and try and try and live as comfortable as possible. But it's not going to be a comfortable life for like a long time. Like you're going to be like kind of scraping by, but yeah, it's just the way it is. It's just the way the sport is, I guess.
Heading over to Orlando at the end of the week, who's in your team heading over there?
So Andre Paulette, our wrestling coach, is going to head over with me. So he just got back yesterday too, I think. So he's making a big sacrifice to only have a week with his family and come over with me. So yeah, I'm very lucky to have him come with me, and I'm looking forward to it.
I know you're not just a striker. We've talked about you working with Dan and doing a lot of striking in the past. You're probably one of the more well-rounded mixed martial artists we have in the country. I think anyone who's watched you fight would say that. Do you feel like your overall talent base is a little bit sort of overlooked because you are training at City Kickboxing and everyone seems to think that, you know, every fighter here is just a kickboxer who sort of throws grappling in every now and then?
Yeah. It's funny, like from the gym, like coming out from the perspective of the gym, I'd say like the MMA team probably spend 80% of our time actually grappling. So like you're not going to spend that amount of time doing it and not have good skills. But yeah, for myself, I come into the sport as a striker with zero grappling. It was a massive hole in my game. Like I said earlier, like I probably spent my first 3 years out of my depth, so I recognised I needed to work on it. And I worked on it like so much that probably my striking slipped a lot and my grappling improved. So yeah, I'd probably consider myself more of a grappler now. But yeah, it's just the sport. There's just like no way you can cover everything perfectly, so you're gonna sometimes lean towards other things, I guess.
For people who might want to go and watch some of your past fights, do you have a fight that you, I don't know if enjoyed most is the right word, but a fight you look back on and was like, yeah, that was a good one, that was a war?
I'll probably say the Callum Potter one on Eternal. Well, that's the one everyone, like, when they're talking to me about the fights, like, oh, I saw that fight on YouTube, that was like a hell of a fight. So yeah, it's easy to look up, it's on YouTube, and yeah, even though I lost a split decision, it was a barn burner, and yeah, it was probably one of the more enjoyable fights I've had. I had to like overcome a bit of adversity in the second round, and yeah, I think I showed a bit of my mettle in the last round, so yeah, it was a good fight.
In terms of getting into this competition, I mean, you've been on big cards down here, Eternal, obviously doing big things these days. How big is the experience factor going into this whole situation with, you know, being based in a little bubble, only being able to do certain things, and then going to fight and like very, very professional setup?
Yeah, well, I guess I can't comment too much because I haven't like done it yet, but like I say, I'm just sort of towards the tail end of my career, so like all the other stuff, I'm just trying to just enjoy getting to do these experiences, because I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to do them for. So yeah, it's going to be an adventure. I'm just really looking forward to the whole experience and getting to fight overseas, getting to fight for a big promotion, and yeah, I'm just going to enjoy all of it and not try and think too much, I guess. Just trying to enjoy the moments as I get them.
How much of a difference does it make going into a fight, knowing that just go and enjoy it rather than putting pressure on yourself to do certain things?
Yeah, it's cool. It's like quite freeing. Like in my last couple of fights, I have a few fights before that I had a bad run, like a couple of losses, and I was just trying too hard. And I think sometimes the harder you try, the worse things are. Like, yeah, at the moment, if this was my last fight, I'd be satisfied. I get to kind of go home and be with my family and stuff. So, yeah, I'm just enjoying it. I'll obviously give my all. Like, I don't know how to do things any other way, but yeah, I can't like predict the future or getting nervous or worrying about things now is not going to help me in a week's time. So, yeah, I'm just enjoying and just loving being at the gym, loving being with the boys, and loving to go away and fight.
Dan mentioned that he's very sort of similar in style to the guy you're fighting, and it worked out quite nicely because you're quite similar in style to Arnold Allen, who he's fighting in London. I know you talked before about how much work you guys put in, but have you managed to do like another level with each other this time? I know you guys work together a lot, but has it just gone up this time because of the stylistic similarities?
Nah, it's just standard, bro. It's just business as usual. Like, yeah, I've been like similar to a lot of opponents he's fought. He's been like had aspects of a lot of opponents I've fought. Like, yeah, it's just been business as usual. We go at it. We train hard and we enjoy ourselves.
And Kai Kara France has been in camp with you boys as well. How's he looking?
Yeah, I don't really see too much of Kai in camp. Like, we're in the same class, but he tends to sort of work with the smaller guys. So like, not that me and Dan are huge guys, but the sort of the below the lightweights and that. But yeah, he's looking good as always. Always working hard. Always very professional.
Just lastly, most of the coaches, aside from Doug, haven't been here for the last almost a month now. How has that been for you with just working towards this fight in that home stretch?
It hasn't been too bad because like Doug's basically been my main stand-up coach for the last few years, so me and Doug have a real good relationship. He's the one responsible for getting me this opportunity in the PFL, so yeah, that hasn't changed too much. Just the MMA classes that Eugene normally runs, but Dan's taking charge of them, and he's a very good coach in his own right. So like, I don't think there's been any negative aspects. Obviously, it's always good when we have Eugene here, but yeah, it's just been like things just run like clockwork anyway. So the gym's still been ticking along. I've still been getting my rounds in with Doug. Brad's been helping me a little bit too, just a little bit extra on the side. So yeah, it's been good. It's been a good camp.
Sweet, man. We'll leave it at that. Hope all goes well over in Orlando and come home with that contract.
Sweet. Cheers, Chris.